Hello and welcome to another episode of Spotlight Sessions. My name is Elon Fisher. I'm the host and I also head up on nonprofit partnerships at accessiBe's. Today, I'm really excited to be having a conversation with Meegan Winters. She is the co-founder and CEO of AbleEyes, which is a really awesome startup doing amazing work in the physical and digital accessibility space. How's it going, Meegan?
Really good. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And it's really cool actually how we met. One of my colleagues went to the Travelability Summit, me too, and then a couple months later we got connected, and then you got connected to my colleague Avital, and here we are. But apart from the story of really how we met, I'd love to know a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got into your work at AbleEyes.
Yeah, be happy to share. So my background is I was a special education teacher. I taught students on the autism spectrum for many years. And one of the common characteristics for a person on the autism spectrum is maybe not inability, but difficulty with transitions to new places. So for example, things like field trips and assemblies, those were things that we knew were out of routine in our daily schedule, and things that we knew could cause anxiety, could cause behaviors, could cause frustration. So we would do a lot of preparation ahead of time in the classroom to help prepare students for what was to come. We created social stories and visual schedules, and we take pictures and we take videos. And so that's one half of my inspiration behind this. I then went on to be a teacher consultant, a assistive technology coordinator, and an assistant principal before finally leaving to pursue AbleEyes. The second part of my inspiration is that one of my best friends, Jessica, was a wheelchair user. She had muscular dystrophy, and her and I lived together in college. So through that experience, I really had a chance to understand physical accessibility and some of the challenges that could come into play for someone with a physical disability as well. And I think, as tragic as Jessica passed, it'll be 7 years next week, actually. And as tragic as that event was in my life, it was also, I think, the thing that was my kick in the rear to move forward with this dream that I'd had for a long time. So it was something that I had shared with her and said, this is something that could help families, it could help teachers, it could help people travel, it could help just everybody access their community so much easier. And so that is when, in 2017, AbleEyes was born. And what AbleEyes is it's a virtual tour hosting site. So it's a website that works kind of like Yelp, where you can put in your location and it will show you all of the virtual tours in a particular area. And I think most people are familiar with virtual tours, but virtual tours is what you see on Google Maps when you can kind of click through, or if you're house hunting, where you can click through at your own pace. You can look at whatever your needs are, whatever your accessibility needs are. You have a chance to explore an environment ahead of time to decide if that's a place that you're comfortable in going. And in so many cases, it probably is, but sometimes the unknown will hold somebody back from trying something new, especially in travel. So we have, AbleEyes has virtual tours now worldwide. We have our first two international virtual tours. So yeah, it's really exciting just in the last couple of months. So that was that was a huge goal. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of what AbleEyes is.
I love it, and I think AbleEyes has so many positives on an accessibility level, on a cultural level, just in the way the world is going. And I think it was somebody who told me this last week, and I've had it a lot of times. A lot of things that are common practice today started off as accessibility barriers that were fixed. For example, if you look at the crosswalks that kind of go down, the word has escaped me for a second, but that's one of those examples. Or even zooming on your zooming on your browser, for example, is something that started off as something for accessibility, but is now completely common practice. So I really like the mission of AbleEyes. And in terms of the operations, it's yourself. How big is your team? How are you kind of growing, and what does the day-to-day kind of look like?
So I have a very small team actually. I'm kind of a solopreneur, and learning everything through Google basically. And because my background was I was a teacher, so I didn't know anything about starting a business or running a business. So I am just kind of self-teaching along the way. And I do have an assistant and somebody that helps with social media. And so I do have a small internal team. And then I have a few photographers here locally, but then I contract with photographers internationally. So day to day, I wear 95% of the hats, but that's okay. Like I have loved the journey, and I think there's some really exciting things to come as far as scaling and growing and having an even larger impact.
I love that, and I respect so much, putting yourself into the deep end, going from, being a teacher to a solopreneur, and also being open about like learning everything on Google. I think that's something that we all do, and we don't all pretend to have the answers. In terms
Yeah.
of scaling and growing, or even, getting this business up and running, what's the achievement that you're most proud of so far on this journey?
Well, I've already mentioned my most recent achievement, but that has changed so many times over this journey. So, at one point it was to have 100 tours on the website, and then it was to have a minimum of one tour per state in the United States, and
Mm-hmm.
then it was to be international. And so I just keep like layering those goals and then reaching for the next goal. So my next goal is to have an app for Able Eyes, and that is also something that's in the works but not here yet. But having something that will improve usability for users, so making it really easy for someone to access the virtual tours that they're looking for.
I love that, and it also kind of segues me into a topic which I really like asking our guests, because everyone has a super different point of view when it comes to this. But when you mention usability, I like to think of accessibility. What does accessibility mean to you from a kind of a personal perspective as well, or even just your professional perspective of your work with Able Eyes?
Yeah, that's a great question. And right from the get-go, right from the start of Able Eyes, I have been really focused on not only the physical aspect of accessibility, but also for somebody that has invisible disabilities. So, like
Mm-hmm.
ADA has been amazing, and we've made some incredible gains in our communities and in our country and in our world, helping people gain access to the community. However, we don't really have a lot of accommodations out there that are required or necessary for someone with an invisible disability. And that could be autism, that could be anxiety, that could be post-traumatic stress disorder. There are tons and tons of invisible disabilities that people are maybe secretly holding on to in their life, they're not talking about, but that may be holding them back from having experiences and living their best quality of life.
That's a really deep answer, especially because when you're thinking about the internet, it's like everyone's relationship is super different, and you never know what somebody's experience is going to be. So having those accommodations is super important. And I was actually discussing this recently because I was speaking to a museum, and they were saying like how the fact that they've gone virtual is so great because somebody with you know um, a cognitive disability can come in and plan and map out their route, and that's super important and super helpful. So the work that Abilize is
Mm-hmm.
doing is amazing from from the usability level, really for that person as well for their experience. And this is kind of leads me to really what my final question is going to be is if you had a message to the business community to cater better for people with disabilities, what would that be? Because you mentioned, the ADA has made massive leaps and bounds, but what is still missing?
Able Eyes. If you don't have Able Eyes, you need Able Eyes. So, no, that I guess one of the things I actually haven't touched on is the benefits for the businesses that we work with. So, this is something that took some time for me to understand, again, not coming from a business background, but I started AbleEyes so passionate and so bright-eyed about accessibility. And I have had all of these experiences with people, with students on the autism spectrum, and if someone hasn't had that type of experience, it's hard to explain why that's important. I will say, though, that the pandemic has created a lot of empathy there. Now everybody understands isolation. Everybody understands what it's like to feel nervous going out into the community. And so we've really kind of had to adapt our product a little bit. It's still a virtual tour, but we've had to kind of adapt by adding a marketing component to it, because not every business has an accessibility budget, but every business has a marketing budget. And so when we provide these virtual tours, they go on our website, they go on a Google business listing, they go on the business is created or is provided the embed code, and then eventually on the AbleEyes app. So really creating a way for that business to be seen from so many different perspectives and using so many different tools. So I know that's kind of a selfish answer, but I am so passionate that this is something that's going to help so many people.
And again, we are so together with you on this mission. And really the last thing is I want to plug AbleEyes. If somebody wants to get involved in AbleEyes on the mission side, the product side, just even to connect with you and have a conversation and learn more, how can they do that?
So the website is ableeyes.org, and that's ABLEEYES.org. On there we have a connect form. We have all of our social networks on there. Someone can schedule a call with me in particular on the connect page as well. So I'm always so excited to talk about accessibility, even if it's not about AbleEyes. I currently am doing a webinar for different industries to try and just help people take those first steps in improving accessibility, whatever their organization is and whatever their needs are.
That's epic, and I think really, Meegan, I wanted to thank you so much for taking the time. You really, I love listening to you speak, because you speak with such passion about your work, and also meshing the business and usability side of things. I really can take a lot, and I look forward to our next collaboration, our next conversation, and have an awesome rest of the day.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers.